As we start looking at agent attraction and being purposeful about that, this is the time we've been waiting for, everybody. This is, agents have been too busy to look at other companies for the most part. The conversations have been, I'm too busy, I'm having my record year. A good majority of agents that are in my circle of influence, a couple hundred now that I stay in connection with, they've had banner years, record incomes through this incredible market that we saw. Well, that market is past tense, right? That the shift has happened. It's not shifting, it shifted. So what goes on now is uncertainty, concern, rates, and there's a lot of noise and a lot of dialogue going on in the space. So it's your time to become that soft place to land, maybe that support that they're not getting from the broker. And that's what this is really all about. We look at this. I'm going to give her a call just to make sure here. I don't see her in the audience yet. Okay. Yeah. If you just go to randybyrd.live, it should go right to it. Oh, I see you. Thank you, dear. Bye. All right. She was a second away. So as we progress through this, Shelley, how are you, beautiful?
I'm good. How are you?
Yay, I'm doing great. I was just psychobabbling about why it's such a great time to agent attract now versus what we've seen over the last couple of years, because everybody was so busy and having record years. And now there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of, obviously, a shift in the market. Shifted, not shifting. It shifted very quickly. And so I'm really excited to introduce you. So let me start with this. Shelley Johnson. She is a beautiful soul. I met her through really the Brent Gove meetings in Puerto Rico for the first time. We got to hang out, really become friends. We actually had some coaching and some business dealings together. So I really got to know her and her partner, Craig, really at an intimate level and how they run their operation. And then her and her beautiful husband have built a massive organization within EXP. And she is, in my opinion, one of the top leaders and one of the top attractors, and certainly one of the iconic teams and tribes moving forward in this company. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to Shelley Johnson. Shelley, good morning.
Good morning. How's everybody?
Doing great.
Good. Thank you for that.
So we've got a good group here. We do a live session every week from 9 to 10. We make live dials. I make dials. They make dials. They could listen, whatever it is. It's really, I think, impactful. We've talked about this. And but today I want to make this all about you for the first 20, 30 minutes of this. And really important to me is I want them to dig in and get your story. What is your story from the beginning? Okay. During, the vision of joining EXP and what you wanted to accomplish. And if you ever thought it would be this big, or was that from day one, your goal? But first of all, let people know, and I want you to brag on yourself a little bit. I know you're not a bragger and you're very reserved in that regard, but I'm asking you and I'm begging you, brag a little bit for a few minutes so they know who you are. How big is your organization? Be vulnerable, share, what you feel comfortable about sharing in commission or in, basically your sales business commissions and in agent attraction or in revenue share, if you're willing to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then some of the icon benefits and things that you've recognized over the years, because I think those are all part of the story that makes this company different. So would you be willing to do that for us?
Absolutely. I love Randy. Randy's an incredible leader and he's helped me tremendously, and Craig in our business. And it's amazing. That's the one thing about this company that I really love is that, top people can really pour into each other and help each other and all win together.
If you're not muted, mute yourself. Sorry, I'm trying to look for who it is.
When?
I think I got it. Okay. Got it. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So that's what I love about this company is Randy's an incredible leader. He has such a great heart. And I think that when you have great leaders, great hearts and great energy, that's when you can make the biggest impact on people's lives. And, and everybody that I meet on these calls, the ones that show up to these calls like yourselves who make that time and dedicate that time, they're the ones that really win. And, and sometimes it's other people want to be a part of this. They just don't know. So if you have, one thing I'll just say real quickly is if you have people in your organization that aren't on these calls, make sure that you're inviting them, do a text every week to remind them, because it's hard to do the heavy lifting we don't know everybody in our organizations. It's hard to do the heavy lifting ourselves, even though we all want to, and they don't have the relationship with us. A lot of times the relationships with you, and you're their leader. So I think, that's one thing I just want to say real quickly, because that's something I like try to focus on with our group. I had no idea this would be what it is. The opportunity for you all is incredible. It's a bigger opportunity now than it was even when I joined, I believe, just because we were so small, I didn't even know what it was. Meaning, like, I didn't really understand the opportunity. So the fact that you guys are in a position where you were a valid, relevant, exciting company to be a part of, with like icon awards, and to be able to have stock and ownership and be able to build something together is completely different. And when we first joined, there was only 2,600 agents. I was looking for something more for our team. I was trying to find a way I was trying to find something that I felt like I could be a part of, and be a force with. And when I met, Randy and Brent and Cliff Freeman and Glenn Stanford, and I saw the leadership, that was a clear indicator that this was, to me, was going to be a great place to run our business, even if it never grew anything really huge. And so we joined forces in 2017. So we're coming up, July's our 5th year. We're 5-year icon. So we've iconed 5 times. That's equated into a tremendous amount of money for us just in stock awards, and then we've attracted 32 FLQAs. We have 55 frontline agents. My team itself, we have a team in the Charlotte Lake Norman market. We do about 123 million in production. We left KW 8 years ago. We were doing about 42 million in production when we left KW. And my team is better and stronger now than it's ever been. And, the shift that we're looking at, or this change in market, they actually really, in a weird way, excite me, because it makes us think and look at our business again. When we get comfortable, we just kind of stay in that zone. But it's so important for you guys to lean into agent attraction and to make that part of your time blocking, part of your goal setting for the rest of this year. I mean, we have 6 months. How many seeds are you going to plant in the next month? Like now, it's like everybody's slowing down our sales. Like, if you're like our team, I don't know what your markets are like, July is like really our heavy closing month. So that means you're going to have some more time. Allocate some of that time and I wrote a post about this yesterday on my actual, our group page. And it said to reach out to 10 people genuinely every day. Just your mom. I mean, you have cheerleaders out there that want you to be successful. And sometimes they're the ones that will actually make the connection for you. So it doesn't even have to be realtors. It just make genuine connections, and you may get another transaction from that relationship. You may get another opportunity outside of real estate from that genuine interaction. There's so many things, so many doors open when we take the time to genuinely connect with people. So that's really been, I don't have some sexy, crazy formula to tell you. I don't have something that's like the magic pill we're going to take tomorrow and we're going to I have the same frustrations. Randy's coached me up. He knows my weaknesses. He knows my strengths. We all are the same. It's just that we have different skill sets. And that's what I love about this group of you guys all coming together, is where someone's strong or where they're weak, there's another person that's strong or weak in that other area. And, and sometimes we get energy from each other. So if we try to do this alone, the lone wolves never make it. They just don't.
And that's kind of how we're trained in real estate, right? We're the lone wolf. We might join a brand or a company that assists us in the journey, but it's all about us, and it's all about branding us. And then this company comes along and is really quite different.
Flips it on its head. And, and then you get like the leader like Randy that's like, let's pull this together. And I know there's other leaders on this call. I see Tom, and I know Simone, she's amazing. And I got to know her in Puerto Rico as well. And I'd love to get to know all of you all. But it's just really cool when Simone is a beast. I've gotten to know her, and she just has like a great heart. And I know I just don't know you yet. But I know a lot of you guys have that. And all you got to do is like just dig a little deeper. And I see like the husband wives on here, the almost Cindy. I don't know what I'm assuming is your husband, maybe not, but business partner, whatever. Everyone thinks my business partner is my husband too. And I have to go,
I know
no.
everybody confuses Craig with your husband. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, have someone you can run with, a partner, a friend, but someone who's really, and the thing of it is, like, I love accountability, but really accountability boils down to us. Like, we're the ones that have to go to sleep and lay our head on the pillow at night and go, did we make those phone calls? Did we make those follow-up calls? I mean, I've had accountability partners and they work to a degree, but really you have to want it in your whole gut.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it has to be you that wants it. And you have to, and that's why, you know, there's such a loose way that people talk about finding your why. Well, you know why that's important? Because that's what drives you. I mean, that's what makes you get up and actually make the call. And that energy you get from a group like this just fuels that and helps you have the momentum on the bad days, like the bad weeks where you're like, you know what, I'm not in the mood. I'm just not, I can't pick up the phone one more time to, you know, whether it's for a client or for an agent. That's why that's so important. That community that y'all have created here together is so important. And when you don't show up to this, or someone else doesn't show up to this regularly, it's like you're letting each other down. So it's a sense of responsibility to yourself, mostly, to do it, and for your families. But then it's also a sense of responsibility to all of us that are on these calls together.
I love that. And, you know, you said something really important, was to have every individual on here to text their tribe to invite them to this. Just like I text a lot of the people on the call this morning, just to remind them and to say how special you are and to be here today. They have that same, not obligation, they have that same opportunity to text their 1 or 2 or 3 personally enrolled or friends that would get value from this, that the light bulb might just go off. Here's a great story. Don Yoakum, the biggest general in my organization, him and Tom Daves have a partnership. Don would not be here if it wasn't for Shelley, I believe. And it was because it was a haphazard meeting. You might not even remember, but the taxi ride, the Uber ride back to the airport from Scottsdale. So invited Don to Scottsdale to look at this model. He was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And he looked at it. He got the experience of Scottsdale. He got that experience of what happened there. But then he left the hotel and got in a cab ride with Shelley Johnson. And what Shelley Johnson said to Don Yoakum impacted him to flip the switch, right? It just was enough to have him go, I see it now, even though he came from a couple-day high-powered event. And she's not in my organization. She had no benefit to that conversation other than helping all ships rise with the rising tide, helping EXP. And that's the special part of this. And obviously now Don is one of the leaders of the company, and Tom Daves, and you know, they're building something massive from one conversation, in my opinion, right? We could pinpoint it to that Uber ride, and Don recognizes this, that's what changed it for him. And so how many in your organization now?
There's 3,500 of us now. 3,500
of us. Do you hear how casual that was said? Just like, there's 3,500 of us. It's just like how many listings you have. I have 11 listings, or I have 1,050 listings. I love the humility in that. Would you mind sharing with people, like, what's your biggest rev share month? Is that something you're willing to share?
Sure. We about 146,000 was our largest rev share. Last month we did 128,000 in a month.
And so you also run, and I want to say this with a little tongue in cheek, you also run a $123 million a year team accurately, right?
Yep.
So for those that are going, I'm too busy to recruit, I'm too busy to agent attract, I'm too busy for this gift, just think about that for a minute. Even if you're doing a $40 million a year business, she's made time, she's found time. So let's roll back the clock, right? Okay. You just looked at EXP. What was I know we had the vision of getting excited and all that kind of stuff, but take us through the first steps. There's a lot of people that are super fired up, but they've only got 1 or 2 people and they just don't have the momentum, or they had a lot of success in the beginning, and it kind of tapered. What does that look like in the first early parts of your career? And how did you map this out? Did you say, okay, these are the 10 generals I'm going to focus on, or did you just take everybody that would follow you? What did that look like?
I was sitting at our meeting in California. It's really important to go to these events. I was in California, and that's what made me make the move, by the way. If I had not gone to California for EXP shareholder, there was only 300 in the room. Randy, you were probably there. And I wrote down a list. I just wrote down names. Like I didn't like have like an outcome attached to it. I didn't put a lot of emotion into it. I honestly didn't even know that I could recruit. I didn't know what was going to come of it. I just thought, well, if a few of them join, that'd be great. And we like to run together. We like hanging out. So why not talk to them about it? And it didn't happen overnight. It was a lot of conversations, a lot of follow-up, a lot of, and then I plugged into the resources like Randy or Tom or, Don or any of the people on this call. I plugged into the resources. I plugged into Brent and Jean. I plugged in, and I didn't try to do it myself. That was my biggest success point, was not thinking I was the beginning and the end of the answer for these agents I was talking to. It was the three-way conversations were critical. That was always my goal, was how am I going to get them on the phone with someone who knows more than I do? And that honestly was.
Can you say that one more time just for the recording?
Yeah, no, it's really important, because we try, and I'm guilty of this now because now I know everything, right? Or we wait until we think we know everything before we start the conversations. Guess Amen. What the best recruiter is? The person knows nothing, because you're not going to vomit all over them. You're excited. You're just plainly excited, and you're genuinely interested in them being a part of what you're doing. But when you start to know every cap and how it's going to work for their team, don't get caught up in the details. Get caught up in the person. Oh. So Randy knows how to do that. Right?
That is the mic drop moment.
It's just like, we get caught up in the detail of how it's going to happen. Just have the heart to hearts and the like, hey, you got to know this guy, Randy Byrd. He's a national coach. He's leading you will love him. He's really helped my business. Like, why? What are the top 10? What are the things that they've told you by asking? My husband taught me to ask really good questions, and I'm still stucky at it. He's much better at it than me. But asking really good questions and then finding out what their triggers are, because everyone's in pain. I don't care if you're talking to a person who does $2 million in GCI a year, they're in pain. The pain that they're in is time. So like, listen to them. I went to a dinner the other night with a friend of ours, and I watched a realtor. I've tried to talk to him before. He's very, not humble. He was standing outside on his phone at a restaurant, and I looked at him in pity. I was like, oh my God, that poor soul. He has to freaking do that still. Walk out of the restaurant on his family and have to take these calls. I looked at him like, hey, how you doing? And I, kept on going, but that's what went through my mind. I'm like, that could be me, because that was me. Mm-hmm. And his non-humbleness is keeping him is stuck in that place. So I don't know how to overcome that, but isn't that interesting? That like 5 years, we've been in the business the same amount of time. He's in the same spot, and I've moved on beyond that. And it's like, if you could just have the conversation, maybe you haven't asked the right question. Maybe I'm not the right person. I don't know, but someone needs to get to that guy. But isn't it interesting? Like how we think we can do in a year. We think we can do more in a year than what we think we could do in 5 years. If you really think about it, 5 years ago, I was not spending time with my husband. I was not the best wife. I mean, he probably wouldn't say that, but I know I wasn't. I was grouchy. I was like, I didn't want another conversation when I got home. I already poured into 50 million people all day. I wasn't who I needed to be, who I deserved to be, right? And now 5 years later, I'm a different person than what I was 5 years ago. Totally. I'm much more relaxed. I'm not as stressed. And you guys deserve, the reason I'm sharing that with you is because you deserve that. Your families deserve the best you, not just you. And you deserve that more than anything. I just have been there. I was on the hamster wheel. I didn't know there was an escape to it. But really it's really simple. Make the calls, do the follow-up. Those are the three things. The rest of it, the like, oh my gosh, I don't have a great onboarding program, or I don't have that. Those are excuses to not do the activity that's going to create the result. Because I see it in my own organization. That's how I know this stuff, because they'll say, oh, I'm working on the onboarding. I'm like, great. Well, who are you onboarding? 2 people? You're telling me you can't take 2 people and onboard them yourself and like they love on them the whole way through? You're telling me you can't do that? Like, I'm confused. That's really confusing to me.
And
So,
the perfect onboarding system is the one where the onboarded agent feels loved and taken care of, right?
yeah,
It's not a magical system of checkpoints and all this stuff. It's their experience. And if their experience is amazing and you don't do anything correctly, that's a win. I just, there's so many nuggets here. I just so love you and your style of business and your humility. Because when I got into this, I had no humility. I was that guy. I was, I knew everything. I knew what I was going to do, and I didn't listen to Brent. And here he just marches on to this massive stratosphere doing this amazing things. And then, so finally what happens? I get it. And I'm like, Brent, okay, I'm ready. Tell me whatever you tell me, I'll do. And he's like, the same thing I told you 3 years ago. Make a list, call the list, make friends with them, find out what you could do to help them, right? It's just the same thing over and over, and then leverage the tools of 3-way calls. I love everything about this. And we've got some great questions. I'm going to go over a couple of them real quick. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Andrea Beam. And by the way, you and Andrea probably should connect. She's a powerhouse in the Pacific
awesome.
Northwest. Yeah. But she had a couple questions, with that big of an organization, have you hired leverage to help you with that? What roles have you hired? And she's running a real estate team as well. What tips do you have to build an organization, as running a team like you have?
So nothing's perfect. I hired myself a person who focuses on my agents for EXP only. So like, she has all my level 1. Well, she doesn't onboard. I mean, she does some onboarding for me, because here's where we get caught up. When you have like 3,500 agents, you're like, I got to help onboard. Well, that's impossible, right? Yeah. So I try to tell the agents what I just shared with you all was onboard your person. Like, don't worry, because honestly, even if Deb was onboarding all the agents that are joining every month, she wouldn't be able to do a great job for any of them individually, right? It's just too many people. So just help onboard who you can. Like, if you've got a rock star come in, like, you got to give them a rock star. Everybody's a rock star. So treat everybody like a rock star, and they're going to love being a part of what you're doing. They're never going to leave you. And then don't love them and leave them. I mean, Brent says that all the time. Don't love them and then like forget about them. Like, I make an effort to that's what she does. She loves all my people. So like, everybody got Father's Day cards. My level 1's got Father's Day cards. We're sending out birthday gifts this month.
That's an idea.
We're doing birthday gifts to the people in our group. Where Christmas time, we're doing little things, and we're also recognizing the people that they're working really hard, and they don't have to be hugely successful, but if they're working really hard, I want to know those people. So she gets on like the Zoom call like this one, she'll write down all the names, because sometimes people get on my Zoom call, I don't know who they are. And then she has to figure out who they are and who their sponsor is. And then I need to learn about that person, because if they're showing up, I want to help support them. And we may not really know each other. What happens is your group is really small. Love that group. That's like a blessing, because those are the people you're going to be the closest with, and you can help them the most. And then those are your generals. I don't care if you think the person's a general or not. I don't care if they ever sold a house before. They're your general. They joined you. It's our responsibility to take care of them. So they're your general. So love them, help them, support them, whatever you need to do. And then if you say, sometimes when someone will come and say, oh my gosh, Shelley, you need to know this person. And then like their name will ring a bell. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, well, let's do a call like right now. So we'll just call them together. Have you ever watched Brent? You guys need to just watch him. Don't stalk him. But if he's on a trip, you know what he's doing? He's like shooting pictures of him and Kathy, and he's shooting them to me, and he's shooting them to Randy, going, I miss you guys. You should be here. If he's golfing, even though I'm not a golfer, he'll be like, send me a funny picture, like, I don't know, Brent style. He does that because he wants to show the person it's more than just EXP. This is more than that. Like, figure out who they are and what makes them tick. I'm sorry, I'm totally off track.
No, you know what I'm taking from this, which is helping me, and I appreciate that, is I look at my front line, if you will, my personally enrolled and maybe my level 1 and 2, because I'm connected the most with them,
Right.
and really treating those like your best VIP customer, the VIP party you have, not just the client appreciation party, but the VIP party. I want my people to feel like they're my people, right? They're my
Right.
friends, and I will jump on the highway if they need help immediately,
Yep.
right? And when we do that, we build a tribe, an organization that people care about each other. And then when you expand that to all ships rise with the rising tide to EXP, it becomes a bigger thing. But I want to roll back a little bit, because there's a lot of people on the call that have massive skill set, massive ability, and haven't put the pedal to the metal or put the rubber on the road, so to speak, right?
Okay.
So in building EXP, especially now, 3-4 years ago, it was different. When I call people, they were like, EXP who? Why would I join a company I've never heard of? Let me
Right.
see how it works out. It's different now. Not only are we the fastest growing company in history, but now everybody's heard about it through different programs, and all the leaders have systems, and everybody that I talk to has heard about it, right? It's like a unicorn. If somebody goes, EXP, never heard of it, it's like, what? So now we have to actually overcome that conversation, that initial block that I've already heard of EXP, or I've heard the words, I don't need to hear more because I'm happy with this or that. That's when you have to stop the EXP narrative, and you have to get into building a relationship. You have to deposit equity into that relationship before you could ask for a withdrawal. And too many people act like it's an ATM. Hey, I need money. I need you to, answer my questions or serve my needs. And that makes it challenging to make the phone call, because you get into a place to where you're tied to the outcome. Let go of the outcome, let go of EXP, and just be a good friend. And when you become a good friend, you build trust, you build equity, and then they're likely going to ask you when you're really loving on them and helping with that. So Shelley, first of all, I really appreciate you being here. You're one of my favorite people in the company. You're just a giver. You've called me for 3-way calls to help you. Flattered. I've called you and you've helped me with 3-way calls, right? It just depends on the chemistry of what is, who you're matching energy to and stuff. And so I think the takeaway for me on today's call is the 3-way call that you mentioned. That's the critical one, because you don't want to know everything. If you know everything, you have a challenge with the candidate going, I can't do what Shelley does. But if they go, what's EXP stand for? And Shelley goes, I'm not exactly sure, even if she dead knows, even if she wrote why EXP exists, right? If she goes, I'm not 100% sure, but I'd love to introduce you to Brent Gove, or I'd love to introduce you to Randy Byrd or Andrea Beam. I'd love to introduce you because I think they know the answer, and you have to meet this person, edify. And then all of a sudden the person goes, oh, well, what she did, I can do. That's duplicatable, right? All she did was learn how to properly do a 3-way introduction, and then let the leader or let the other person help you in that. I think that's a really big takeaway. Reminding your people of meetings is a constant thing if you want to be a leader, if you want to be a general. Matthew Stewart on here, one of my generals, is really amazing at that. He is the best I've ever seen in the 3-way introduction. He edifies me so much that I'm like honored to be on that call. And that is really a skill. And he comes from a network marketing background where that skill set is really trained, and he does it extremely well. Also, another takeaway was get cheerleaders, even your own family members, mom, dad. I have a story, and it's going to make Jenny and Robbie laugh on here. So Kirsty, my girlfriend, her sister and Jen and Robbie live in Bend, Oregon. They owned a Century 21 franchise. And for like 2 years, she didn't even let me know about this, right? I wasn't allowed to recruit them to EXP. She was like, the jury was still out on this EXP thing, right? And then my own girlfriend, once we got to a point where she had a high level of trust, she went to a couple events, then she's like, hey, by the way, I've got somebody I'd like to introduce you to. And I'm like, what do you mean your sister owns a Century 21 office? How dare you? And now they're on this call, and they're in the company with us. And I'm very blessed about that relationship. But again, you have to let people take it where they need to take it, and get that belief system around it. And it's not a personal thing. Just continue that loving on people and helping others understand that this may be a solution for their pain. And when you listen to people, when you get to a point to where, I got people coming in like crazy, sorry. But when you get to a point where people trust you, then there's usually a gap that starts widening between the trusting their broker or supporting their broker. Not going to name names, but there's another person on the call right now that called me and said, hey, I haven't talked to my broker in a couple of years. I got a problem with a seller. I was wondering, you did this YouTube video that talked about it. Would you help me? And I'm absolutely. She's in a different company. And I go, absolutely. We jump on a 3-week call right then and had a nice conversation with the seller. And at the end of it, it wasn't like, okay, you owe me now EXP.
Right.
I'm just like, hey, I'm here. If you need anything, I want you to know that I got your back. And that was a switch that flipped, that realized that maybe this is a good opportunity for her. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed because I'm able to do and help that. The events you mentioned, you said that you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't go to an event. I think that's probably the biggest critical component of this, is because belief builds into your belief raising. When you get to a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9, or a 10 in EXP, that belief will be unshakable and be unwavering. And you get that from events. You don't get that just from rubbing elbows with good people. You know, I think the big vision of that is what drives that. And then make your list and don't judge. I know you said I didn't judge. I just made my list, right? And that list was always being added to, I'm sure now, with that size of an organization. But remember, it's you're one person away from a completely life-changing organization, you know?
So true.
And I know you probably have those people in your organization that were the difference makers, the catalyst that just launched, you know, the organization being in a massive growth mode and having massive growth.
Yeah, I mean, thankful. And that's that right there. Like, I will say one thing real quick too, is don't get hung up on if you're making money on revenue share right away. Because the best thing you can do is build and help people. That's later. Like that, yes, you're going to get money now, but don't focus on the amount. Focus on I'm telling you, it's like compounding interest. It's like you put money in, you put $100 in your stock account today, or 1,000, or whatever the number is. You know, you're not counting on that for today. You're counting on that for later. And that's part of what building the rev share group is. I mean, I never would have dreamt we'd be looking at over 100,000 a month in rev share. I mean, that's incredible, right? That's, you know, and if you focus on like, okay, if I can get 10 people to 1,000 agents, wouldn't that be amazing for them, you know? And so that's where my mind is right now. 30 people to 1,000 agents. Who are they? And who am I, and how much, and that's where I'm going to spend a lot of my energy. Who are they? 30 people to 1,000 agents. Why not?
Yeah, why not? And I love that. And, you know, I know probably a significant amount of people that 5,000, 3,000 a month is game changing and residual income. That's the equivalent of owning 6 or 8 rental properties that all make good money, 500, 600, $700 a month. That's really hard to find. And so when you look at the effort it would take to do that, and the capital risk and all the other pieces and components of it, this mathematically just becomes a no-brainer. And the proof has been laid now, right? We've proven that we're the fastest growing company. We've proven we're sustainable. We've proven that we're debt-free when other companies have billions in debt and are struggling. So, you know, you're hooked to the right wagon. And I just love that, that piece of the company. So any closing ahas, anything for you that comes up, or anybody want to come off and ask her a question before we wrap up? And I really appreciate your contribution in helping the organization and helping. This is open to other organizations, by the way. It's open for anybody. We've always had it that way. And, you know, like you said, Simone and some other great leaders have always been here every week.
I think Simone had a question.
Let me scan through questions real quick.
So can I jump in and just ask a quick one?
Yes.
Okay, Shelley, I know that Craig, and correct me if I'm wrong, Craig kind of spearheads most of the running of your real estate team. Is that right? Or do you both share that responsibility?
We both share that responsibility. He on boots on the ground, but I'm really involved with the team.
Okay.
So I wouldn't, I mean, we both do that. And we both work on the rev share group together too.
Okay. And how many agents do you have on your team? And then my last question about your team is, do you feel now that you've gone through almost 5 years, is that having a real estate team, is that critical for your attraction efforts, like to be able to recruit into the team? Tell me about what your feelings are on that.
I think it's helpful now. We have a team of 20, but there only 10 of them are our actual level ones. So
how many are level ones?
10 on our team are level ones.
Okay, so half.
FLQAs. So
Yep.
about a third are our FLQAs. And that's a great question, Simone, because it is what I do is our team recruits to the team. So like it helps them be able to have agents join them and be a part of our team if they're the right fit for the team. Because I'm not trying to build like some crazy, I mean, it's every time you have to hire more people, it's compounding, right? But that's been really good to be able to help some of our agents be able to recruit to the team.
Well, it adds flexibility, right? It adds flexibility of being able to manage FLQA and manage your front line because you have direct relation to it, and that production helps. I think a lot of people would say, I'm making $100,000 a month. Why would I run a team and have all that stress? But it's leverage. It allows you more leverage and freedom.
It does. And we've worked so hard for our real estate business. Like I kind of struggled with that, honestly, about 2 years in. I'm like, should I be putting my energy here? Should I be putting my energy, I was watching Brent, he went all in on the rev share side. So I don't know that there's a perfect answer to that, because the energy you put into building the team takes energy. The energy you build to talking to FLQAs takes energy. So I don't know that there's like this is what I would do.
Standard practice.
I don't know that if I didn't already have a team of the size that I do, I don't know that I would go building one. Like Cliff is building one and it works for him. He's also investing a lot of money in leads, like a lot of like 60, 70,000 a month.
Yeah.
And then it's challenging because like teams, they have to call their leads and they don't call the leads. Like, I don't care what anyone says. They don't call the leads. They call the shiny objects, right? The ones that are like easy, the low hanging fruit, the high hanging fruit, the fruit that takes a little longer. Some of them do. I'm not saying none of them don't, but it's the same problem we've always had. And here's the thing, leads are cheap now. Like, and what I mean that, I'm not saying that they're cheap to buy. They're expensive as heck to buy, but they're not, the quality just isn't there because it's such a watered down. And the only person who's really done it, and Craig and I were talking about this yesterday, Zillow's done a great job with the handoff lead.
Yeah.
The handoff lead is where the gold is. Well, the reason they have good handoff leads is because they dominate the market and they can manage the leads. So
their lead to start with, their lead to end with. Correct.
So it's like they set themselves up in the perfect storm. To compete with that on a team level is challenging. I've hired ISAs. I've failed with ISAs. I'm telling you, I'm the biggest failure ever at most things because, and I have these mental struggles. Like I lay in bed and I go, do this, do that, do this, do that. and then sometimes I really screw up and I'm like, well, that was really dumb. I think I'm real bright on something and then it works out for a minute, but unless I'm micromanaging it, and I don't want to micromanage. That's my thing. It's like, I want some freedom. Micromanaging is not my strong suit. I'm just not designed for that. I can manage for a moment. I can set up a system, but I don't want to live in it. And that means hiring another person that does love to live in the manage. So I don't know. I'm such a visionary entrepreneur. It's really hard for me to like manage.
I love it. Simone said, my goal is to fail like Shelley. Yeah, I'd like to fail into 3,500 agents in my organization and 123 million in production. And, I really identify your humility in this. And I know you as a person now. You're this way all the time. You're a giver. It feels like we go a million miles an hour at times, but you've found the balance now through EXP. And it's been a continued balance, right? And we all have different feelings of growth. The difference between an agent that has 100 in their organization and 250 is different. The difference between 250 and 500 is very different. 500 to 1,000, completely different. And it keeps getting different. So there's no Bible or script for what this is going to look like. It's your design. That's the beautiful part of it. But Shelley, you're amazing. I really appreciate you being willing to contribute so much to the company, other organizations, me personally. And it just means the world to me. I think this has been a dynamite call. We record these and we'll catalog these with with leaders that contribute, so everybody can, this could live on in perpetuity, so people can learn from this and continue to grow and be better people.
I will say, having a business partner is helpful because, Simone, to your point, like I'm just reflecting on that. It is helpful. I'm sure it's challenging and helpful at the same time, but I do have more freedom because of that. But it costs money to do that too, because you're splitting things with another person.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, I appreciate you.
Randy.
You're one of my partners. You're one of my people in life,
the same
my inner
way.
circle. And, that is the beautiful part of this company is now 10 of my closest friends are all in my influence of EXP, and it's just a beautiful thing.
It's awesome. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. We're going to get to the hard work now. We're going to get to the calls and take all the things you taught us today and put it into action.
Go crush it. Call 2 people that scare the heck out of you.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you for being here. All right, everybody, I'm going to stop the recording now, but Shelley is dear to my heart, and she just dropped some gold nuggets on you guys today. So I hope you see value. I'm going to stop that recording and